Hello, agents. I'm so excited today. I want to introduce you to one of our top agent referral partners. This is Chris Lance out in St. Louis. Welcome, Chris. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Mariah. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so excited to have you here. All right, well, let's start off with how you got involved in real estate.
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting story. So I got my real estate license in 1998 and did not join a team, just worked as a solo agent. Was basically given a couple magnets to stick on the side of my car, was shown where to sign up for open houses, and that was about it. So did that for about 3 or 4 months with zero success and had a job offer to take a business to business sales job that was moving me to Texas.
Oh,
So moved to Texas with that job, came back to St. Louis, and then spent the next 21 years at that job, and traveled a lot in the business to business side. So in April of 2020, once COVID came in, all the travel was shut down. My company decided I wasn't extremely useful anymore. So I was let go from that job, had a little bit of time to kind of think about what I really wanted to do, which I hadn't really sat down and thought of for 20 years, and thought,
right.
I really enjoy talking about real estate. I enjoy investing, talking about I just like everything about it. And I'm like, well, now here's my chance to do this right this time. So got my license, joined a team this time, and now about 2 years in, it's been the literally the best 2 years of my professional career. These past two, it's just been great.
So when you jumped back in after all this time, did you kind of have it in your mind that you were going to go, and seek out kind of investor clientele, or did you know right off the bat?
So yeah, that's a good question. So the team I joined, Nations Network, founded by Dave Nations. When I joined the team, I was going to be a retail real estate agent.
Mhm.
But Dave's an investor, and I would talk about investing with him, and um, just how much that part of the business really interested me.
Uh-huh.
And he said, "Well, we've got this set up with this person named Jennifer from Seattle with this thing, Agents Invest." He's like, "It seems like you would be a good fit. Would you like to work with investors?" And I said, "Yeah, I mean, I don't see why not. Sure, I'll give it a try." And then it just really took off. And now it's been, I mean, that was the greatest. It's just so funny how literally 5 seconds out of your life can just change things, because I'd been kind of spinning my wheels trying to get the business going on the retail side. And then when Dave said, "Would you be interested in taking a stab at this?" it literally changed everything.
Wow. So he was an investor. Were you an investor at that point as well, or no?
The only investing I had done is my son and I had a duplex in St. Charles, Missouri.
Oh,
So that's really the only and then back in another lifetime in the very early 90s when I worked in radio, I had a single family house in Southwest Iowa where I was working, and then went to a different radio station out of state, kept that house and rented it for a couple of years, and then got out of it. But realistically, not a serious investor, just
mhm.
dabbled.
All right. So Dave kind of pulled you in and introduced you to Jennifer. How was it meeting Jennifer and getting involved with Agents Invest?
Yeah, I mean, it's been amazing. It's, I love working with the investors. Um, no disrespect to my retail buyers, which are very few now. I will do a couple owner occupant homes, 3 or 4 a year. I just closed one today, but those came from that one came from a referral from a property manager.
Right.
So basically just referrals. But um, yeah, it's just been amazing working with Jennifer and with Agents Invest and Addicted to ROI, because the clients that I get now know exactly what they're looking for, and they've done their own research. There's and I say this being an A personality, there's no emotion involved. Either the deal works or it doesn't work, and there's no hurt feelings if it doesn't work. And I really enjoy that part of it because I'm a numbers analytical person, and I I can work with that kind of buyer a lot easier than I can with somebody that is going to have an emotional attachment to something and maybe not make a great decision because they let their emotions get in the way. Because I'm the kind of person that's wanting to say, no, no, snap out of it. Look at this like a business decision. Well, my investor clients are already looking at it that way. So,
Right.
yeah, that's what I love.
So you feel like you can be a little bit more honest and upfront with them.
For sure. Yeah, it's, it's a business for me and for them.
Mhm.
And, I'm going to do everything I can to help you make a sound business decision. And, the investor's going to have the final say, but that's kind of where I like to take on my role is I'm your boots on the ground here. So I'm
Mhm.
going to give you all of the information I can possibly give you to help you make that business decision. And if we get to the end of our analyzing or underwriting and it doesn't work, I, doesn't hurt my feelings. It didn't work for you. We'll get the
Yeah.
next one. We'll find another one.
Yeah, great. Yeah, I know you mentioned one of our investor members is actually currently out there right now looking
Yeah.
at walking properties with you, and so how is that going?
Yeah, it's going great, and it's only happened a couple times where I've had investors actually come to town, and we've gone around and looked at some properties. But when an investor can make it out, it's extremely helpful because St. Louis, like a lot of other cities, you can have in a quote unquote a B neighborhood, but there might be some sections of A in that neighborhood or some sections
Um,
of C minus.
right.
And I try to explain that to everybody as best that I can, that it can change pretty fast in St. Louis. You can go from $1 million homes to $75,000 homes in the matter of like 5 blocks. So
Wow.
until an investor gets their boots on the ground and kind of sees it firsthand, then they
Mhm.
can really wrap their mind around it, and then that just helps them make better decisions because now they're seeing the surroundings. I mean, you can go Google Street View and move your little guy up and down the streets and see what's around. But
Uh-huh.
until you're in it, it's really hard. So again, I take a lot of care and take a lot of pride in how I educate the investors because I am their eyes, ears, everything when they're not coming to town to look at things. So I take that as I take that responsibility very seriously on making sure they're making wise investments in areas that are going to be the best situation for them.
Mhm. Yeah, and I believe a lot of our investors are looking for and have closed on transactions that are, pretty big, the bigger apartment sizes, right? Because like the ones you were looking at today, I think were 12 units.
Yeah, an 18 and a 12.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, so they're looking at kind of bigger buildings, if you will, and mid-sized apartment buildings.
Right.
Yeah, so that takes a lot of know-how. They have to know how to analyze that certain type of building, and that's what a lot of our investors are looking for. I think is that mid-sized apartment buildings at this point, and so yeah, they you got to know the neighborhoods, you got to know what you're getting into, so to speak, with that amount of tenants and everything. So
Right, exactly. Because that's the thing. Once you get into buildings that size, if you have a single family or a duplex or even a four, um, pretty much no matter where you're at, you're still only trying to fill one or two or four units. But when you're talking 16, 18, 24, then you have to take a deeper dive into the surrounding neighborhoods and where are these people working and what's the income look like
mhm.
and how long do apartments sit vacant, when they do need to be leased back up. So there's definitely more care taken into the surrounding neighborhoods and basically spreading that out past just a few blocks of what's this municipality or this neighborhood look like as a whole, who's moving in, who's moving out. So those are all things you want to make sure that you got your finger on the pulse of all those things so you can answer intelligently because those are things investors are going to ask.
Right. How are you sourcing a lot of these? Are you strictly kind of going from the MLS and things that are listed, or are you doing off market at this point? What is your strategy for that?
Yeah, so it's been an interesting transition. Still, the bulk of what I do and what we sell, or what my clients buy, comes from the MLS. But over the last couple of years of consistently having deals that close with other real estate agents in St. Louis that are big in the investment arena, now I'm getting more and more calls ahead of time. Either, hey, this one's going to be coming on the MLS. I wanted to give you a heads up. Or this is a pocket listing. I don't want to put this on the MLS. Do
Mm.
you have somebody? And it's just been a great transition. I've gotten referrals from my property management teams that I work with, that they'll be managing a building for someone who has decided they want to sell. So they say, well, let me call Chris and see if he's got a buyer. And we've done a couple deals that way. So of just being consistent, and again, starting out basically finding anything on the MLS, but being consistent and getting to the closing table, you start
Mhm.
to build that reputation of, well, I've got this building. Who's somebody that always seems to have buyers? Oh, Chris has buyers. We'll call him.
Right.
So there's more and more opportunities, and then that's just a better opportunity on for my buyers, because now there's no competition. Now my buyer is the only one of maybe no one, or maybe a handful of people that even know about this building being for sale. So that's definitely opened up some better possibilities.
Yeah, that's amazing. So you kind of put yourself on the map out there as a local investor agent. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's wonderful. Do you do a lot of networking locally as well?
I do. There's a large wholesaling group that does once a month, where they do just basically a meetup, and
Mhm.
it's really basic, but it's great because it's people that own properties or have properties to sell, and people that are looking to buy stuff, and everybody just gets together. What do you got? Well, I've got this. What are you looking for? I know a guy that's got that. So that's been great. So yeah, I've started doing more, and I, quite honestly, that is not my scene. I'm not a big networking guy, and so that was something I had to get over, and um, kind of force myself to do,
Okay.
because I'm not a big mingler. I'm a guy that likes to kind of stand and observe the room rather than be the center of attention.
Right.
So that was something I had to get over, because there were opportunities there that I wasn't taking advantage of.
Uh-huh.
So I forced myself to do more networking and reaching out to not just other agents or people that are investors or real estate specific, but insurance agents, lenders, things like that, because they're going to have referrals too. So
Right.
I'm always searching out more lenders, more insurance agents, because I know I can give them business, and I know they're going to reciprocate. So
Mhm.
yeah, the networking has really helped my business.
It's so, so important, and,
Right.
I was really happy to see you come out to the summit that we had out in Phoenix and Tempe. So,
Yeah.
I know you got a little swarmed, there by
Right.
some of the investors, a lot of our investors that had already worked with you or that wanna work with you, I know they're excited to see you there. So, but yeah, networking is so incredibly important, whether it's local or at these, conferences like we had, where you're meeting other people in different areas in different states. But yeah, it's so, so important. I always tell agents, especially ones that are interested in working with investors, get out there, go to these meetups, go to these conferences. Yeah, amazing. Well, so tell us, what are some of the like biggest hurdles, the biggest challenges that you have had working with investors in general?
Yeah, I would say, um, so my biggest hurdles are typically about when and how to write the offer. Um, I've tried to coach up my investors to be ready to pull the trigger when that thing hits. Yes, we want to underwrite the deal, we want to analyze it and make sure it's a good deal.
Right.
But I've gotten most of my clients now have trust me enough that if I send them something, it's got my kind of seal of approval that I'm forwarding it. So if you're getting it from me, I like the deal. Now, you can analyze it some more, of course, but we need to make a quick decision if it's a deal that makes a ton of sense, because we're not going to be the only people seeing it.
Right.
So that's where I've had to do a lot of coaching of, we're going to have a due diligence period when we're under contract. So if we get into that period, I'm going to give you plenty of contingencies where we're going to be able to get out of this deal if once we start due diligence, it doesn't make sense. But we
Mhm.
don't have a week to analyze and underwrite before we submit the offer.
Right.
So, so getting them to react quickly. And then the other thing too is react quickly with reasonable offers. I mean, investors want to get things at a great price, and
They
I
want a
get it,
deal. Yep.
right?
Yep.
But when properties have been on the market for literally a matter of hours, I am probably not going to write that 15% below asking price offer. And
Yeah.
you have to be blunt and honest with your investors, because you are the expert in the market,
Mhm.
and that's what you have to remind yourself and remind your investors sometimes
True.
is, if you want to win this deal, let's not sour it in the first couple hours by writing what I would call an offensive offer and have that seller say, I don't care if they have the room to come up, that hurt my feelings, I'm not working with them.
Oh,
So let's keep ourselves in the game from the beginning and not offend anybody. um and I get it, you shouldn't be afraid to write any offer, but it's a case by case basis. If a property's been sitting for 90 days and they want 600 grand and you want to write an offer at 475, yeah, let's write it. I mean, if nothing else, I will make the call. And sometimes those agents will be like, I have an unreasonable seller, they're not even going to look. Okay. And
okay.
I've done the research to find that out. But again, know your market and trust that you are the expert. That, again, if these markets are, or if these deals are brand new on the market, you don't have a lot of hope if you're writing a really low ball offer. And just make sure your clients understand that is, hey, I'll make the call to the agent, I'll see what the activity's been around, if they have a lot of interest, but let's not shoot ourselves in the foot and never have a shot at this deal by going in and making the wrong move right out of the gate.
Right. Yeah, that once you're under contract, you can get a little wiggle room, hopefully refi that interest rate a little further down the road, and yeah.
Right. And yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned interest rate, Mariah, because I get that a lot lately, since they've spiked again, where, and understandably so, I get where my buyers are coming from of, well, Chris, I ran the numbers and that seller just needs to be reasonable, that my interest rate is this. And I said, yes, I totally understand where you're coming from, but that seller is under no obligation to care about your interest rate.
It's true.
So they have the number that they want. And if you don't like your interest rate at this point in time, that doesn't affect them. But the thing is, that interest rate can be changed. So let's not pass a good property because right now the interest rate is 7.5% or whatever it is. You're going to be able to fix that at some point. If this is a deal that still, even if it marginally makes sense at 7.5%, you're going to make that deal better down the road when you refinance. And especially if you've done some value add or forced appreciation and now you're pulling cash out. So let's not let today's interest rate let you pass up a good deal. Be looking long term, well past today or next week.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, that's great. Well, do you have any final tips or advice for agents that are, wanting to start working with investors or wanting to dip their toe into, investor clients and
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like a lot of the stuff that I mentioned, just know your worth. Yes, the investors, they're your clients, they're the ones that are buying these buildings, but know your worth and know that you are the expert in the field. And if you don't
Mhm.
feel like you're the expert, like I said, I've been doing this only for 2 years, but I've done nothing but inundate myself in the investor world, investment properties. And I bet I've analyzed 2,000 properties probably over the last 2 years. I mean,
Yeah.
easily. It's literally all I do. So So educate yourself so you can be that expert. The other thing I will say is look for other avenues for these properties to make money. If you're in a market like St. Louis, it's a godsend that we have about 8 or 9 hospitals all clustered within about a 10 to 15 mile radius.
Mhm.
So the traveling healthcare professional market is extremely hot in St. Louis. So if you have that kind of scenario in your market where, and you don't necessarily need 8 or 10, if you've got properties, if you're in a smaller market and there's a hospital nearby, look
Mhm.
at that avenue, because my investor buyers that have been furnishing apartments and renting them to travel nurses on like a 3 or 6 month term
Mhm.
are just printing money. I
Wow.
mean, it is amazing. A typical $900 long-term rental, you can get 1600 a month or more on a short-term rental, and you will have people still lining up. Again, it's not going to work in every market, but every market's got hospitals. So that
Yeah.
is definitely an option. So keep that in the back of your mind. I don't do a lot of true short-term Airbnb rentals,
Mhm.
but obviously, those are profit streams or income streams as well. They're just going to be higher than long-term, but really pay attention to properties if they're located where you think a traveling healthcare professional, if that would be a good property, then your cash flow goes through the roof if you've got an investor buyer that wants to go that avenue. So
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
yeah, that's
Yeah, those
really helped
midterm
my
rentals.
sales.
Mhm. Yeah, I think it's also the buildings where there's enough units. Again, talking about multi-units where you can make some of them long term, and you can convert some into the furnished midterm rentals as well as. It's also just one hot kind of investment strategy right now, so that you're not doing all or one or the other. You're kind of checking out how they do if you so seeing
Sure.
how they rent out either way.
Yeah, that's a great point. I'm glad you mentioned that, because I will always mention that to my because I'm getting more and more buyers that are solely looking for midterm rentals. So
Right.
that's what I always advise them on is, hey, let's find you a place that if worst comes to worst and you got to turn these all into year-long leases, it still makes money.
Yeah. Does it
Let's
still work?
Right.
Right.
Let's
That's
not live
really
and die by the midterm. And,
right.
and also, just like you said, let's find a four family that we know three of those long term rentals are going to be making you money. And let's
Mhm.
convert one to a midterm. And if it cash flows like we think it will, well, then when that one lease is up, we'll convert another and another. But yeah, have that exit strategy that if the
Yeah.
whole midterm rental thing blows up, you've still got a cash flowing long term rental property.
Mhm. Absolutely. Well, I think some of the greatest tips that we've learned from you today is really communication. Be the expert and communicate with your investors. Get out there and network locally too, and meet other agents and other lenders and everybody else that can bring you properties, so you're not just solely working off the MLS, right? So
Right.
those are fantastic. But yeah, I mean, you've been such a wonderful referral partner with us over at Agents Invest, and I know our investors love working with you, because you are honest and you communicate with them, and you're, again, like you said, you analyze all the properties and kind of do pre-analysis for them, and you're also just really easy to get along with, Chris. We love working with you. I know Jennifer and Travis have even bought, and they came out there, right, and toured properties and everything with you
Yeah.
as well. So yeah, Jennifer's even worked with you and bought some multifamily out in St. Louis. So
Yeah. Yeah, I will say one other thing I forgot to mention too, if you're just getting started working with investors, is play the long game with each investor. Anybody could sell this investor one property and get the sale, and they have a bad experience and they're never coming back. Build the long-term relationship. That's how I view every single investor that comes to me is I don't want to sell them a property, I want to sell them 20. And if
wow.
you give them a bad experience, they're never coming back. So always have that in the back of your mind, and that will just organically help you go above and beyond to make the experience and the relationship as good as it can be, because you want to have that investor buying in your market for life. And if that's your goal, you're going to do the right things to make that happen.
Yeah. Yeah. We hope that they're looking for a portfolio, right? So that they can they can keep coming back. Absolutely. Yeah, that's what all of us agents want. So wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Chris, for joining me today. And thank you all for watching us. And have a great rest of your day.
Thanks. Bye.